Next up we have Kohepa Thompson, aka HORI. Tēnā koe, nau mai.
Kia ora. Not really, this feels a bit weird, but it's all good. I thought I'd just kind of go through why I'm here and give my whakaaro and my support of this kaupapa. So I haven't got my glasses and I'm reading off my phone, but it's quite. In 2001, I was sent an image of old mate Don's Hobson's pledge billboard by a close friend that stated New Zealand, not Aotearoa. It was placed next to his home. This became the catalyst for a campaign called This is Aotearoa and HORI's pledge, which I released in 2000. Oh, there you go. That's way bigger. Couple.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Which I released last year in 2022. My focus was to bring more awareness in form of Mātauranga Māori to the conversation, which I felt was lacking in representation in Hobson's pledge, and especially by leader Don Brash. What I found was that not only were Hobson's pledge views completely one-sided, but they had also no real understanding of Mātauranga, or in the case of Don Brash, even what the actual word meant. At a speech, he mentioned the word 3 or 4 times, and when I challenged him on what he thought the word meant, he couldn't give me an answer. So it showed me the ignorance that this entire Hobson pledge has. The campaign used my own visual and creative experience with the aim to add a more Māori worldview to the conversation and provoke discussion and to challenge Hobson's pledge on their kōrero. It was also to tautoko Te Pāti Māori on their petition to change the official name of our country, or more precisely to reinstate Te Ingoa Aotearoa. I created a 6-metre billboard, which I put on the trailer and drove around the entire country with the slogan, "Are we able?" ABEL, to be called Aotearoa, with the image of Abel Tasman on the side. We travelled the entire North Island and then the south down to Bluff and back up to Mohua and Golden Bay. Here we visited the past site of the Hapu Tūmata Kōkiri, the people who were involved with the first encounter with Pākehā through Abel Tasman's ship and the Dutch crew. The third part of this journey was to go full circle back to the Netherlands, to the province of Zeeland, and to symbolically return the name New Zealand back to the Dutch people. We spoke with many locals and with historians, particularly around the East Indian Company. This was viewed as a very dark past in the Dutch history that Abel Tasman was intrinsically involved with. This campaign was about giving mana to our oral histories. We as Māori transmitted knowledge o Mātauranga, kanohi ki te kanohi. We used our waiata, mōtiatia, karakia, pūrākau as mechanisms to pass knowledge. We use carvings and weaving to explain stories. It is important to note that just because it wasn't written in a book, this does not give it any less relevance or significance. I'll round this up. Aotearoa or New Zealand. I think the question many have to ask themselves is, what is the relevance of the name New Zealand? Have they been to Zeeland? Is there anyone here that has been to Zeeland? No. Just me. So no one's made the pilgrimage back to the place where the name came from, and many people won't or have any ties to the whenua. Do they know the history of what happened at Mohua when Abel Tasman came to their shores, and do they know the story of Kupe and Kuramarotini? My whakaaro is simple. The kupu New Zealand has no relevance to me and to many of the people in this country, especially Māori. We are already taking steps to give mana back to ingoa of towns and cities in Aotearoa. I believe that we in this country are ready to make a bolder step and return the mana to tangata whenua by making Aotearoa the official and then see the positive trickle-down effect from this action. I feel that if the country from where the name originated has the mana to drop the name Holland and become the Netherlands, then we here in Aotearoa should be able to do it also. We have shown that over 70,000 people want the change, and it's inevitable that this change will happen, hopefully in my lifetime. So why not just make the bold decision to do it now? Ngā mihi koutou. That was my kōrero.
Tēnā koe.
God, I hope
Arina.
there's no questions.
Thank you so much. I have a question about names and how names change, and
Aye.
the meaning of names can change over time. Because the previous submitter, Dr. Don Brash, has written to me and about an oral history of rangi Aotea that I recounted, and he called that a HORI old myth. And I want to ask you about your name and what you are doing to reclaim that name, and how your experience of changing what HORI has meant, what you're doing there and what the kaupapa is, but also whether you accept that Aotearoa can become relevant now in a way that even if it was not, it can now because it's taken on a new meaning.
Yeah, the name HORI or HORI is something that I've had to deal with pretty much my entire life. It was a name that was given to me or bestowed on me, and I hated it, every part of it. What it became was an alias really for a lot of my artwork, which is quite challenging mahi, and it's a challenging kupu in itself. So our whole whakaaro, and it's why the R is spun, is to spin that narrative and to do more challenging, bold mahi with that ingoa. So to me, that name, it's got two, but I've just accepted it. I've moved forward with it, and now it's kind of it is a part of that mahi of the art side. But to friends and whānau, it's hohepa. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that. We're going to Aotearoa.
Tēnā.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Māori. First of all, thank you for the art. I remember that mahi that you did as well, and all the conversations that spurned as well, and it's always a great way when the gift of the artist to help us to think about these different things as well. So ngā mihi kia koe. I was interested in your part of your submission where you went to the Netherlands and you went to Zealand, and I was wondering if you could share with us a bit more on the conversations that you had there. In your submission, you talked about, well, this was a dark part of the history, and maybe they were a bit whakamara about it. If you could share with us, because I'll probably never go to Zealand, and maybe none of us will. So it'd be interesting to.
It's a seriously dark past that some of the people that we talked to called it the golden years also, obviously, because and I think even now when you go to the Netherlands, they're quite affluent people. There's a lot of money there, and it may stem from those golden years. But the historians that we interviewed, and even the people in the streets, they talked about the slave trade and the Dutch East Indian Company and what was done at those times. So yeah, there was a bit of whakamā there especially from some of the historians that we talked to. What happened in Indonesia and a lot of those spaces where the Dutch came. So it's kind of interesting that they stumbled accidentally here. But what could have happened, I wouldn't like to think of what could have happened to our people if that did happen. So yeah, that was
Just add one little bit there. Have you, when you share this little piece of history with people that are opposed to the name Aotearoa, and what's generally their reaction? Is it?
There's usually kind of 3 or 4 arguments. The cost of doing it.
I was thinking about just that particular, that your visit to Zealand. That you went there and you had these conversations, because most people wouldn't have. Yeah,
I mean, I always kind of say, well, it it was always a part of this journey that we had to do that. And it was Te Whai that actually did it first. And it was awesome to acknowledge that and follow what she did, and take it a bit further in terms of documenting what we did. So yeah, it has become a doco that we're putting together to kind of explain this whole kōrero. But yeah, there's so much more to this than just the name. There's a lot of knowledge and myths, like you said, karakia that go back hundreds of years, that in Takitimu even, you know, it's yeah, there's all of this kōrero that doesn't get because it's not written in the book, it doesn't get its thing. So yeah, this doco actually allows people to see these pieces. So yeah.
You were about to rattle off the kind of top 3 or 4 things that you get. You started with cost in terms of opposition to this. What other things were you about to say? The other kōrero, and it might come from Māori, is around you know, our islands. I mean, I think the lady, Hobson's pledge lady, said something around hapu, and the way I kind of see it from a Māori world view is each island can still have their mana motu hake. So they, you know, Tika Maui, Te Waipounamu, Rakiura, Kapiti, they all have their own mana motu hake. But if you see them as hapu of Te Iwi or Aotearoa, that's kind of how I see our country. They are all separate hapu, and as a collective, they are the iwi of Aotearoa. So that's kind of one of the arguments I have the kōrero with our own people, is because a lot of our kaitahu whānau are like, oh, it's Waipounamu. But then but you look at it from a different world views. That's how I kind of explain. And when we went down south, we had these kōrero with down, and they kind of came around, you know, like they were like, oh yeah, I can see that. So there's that. There's the whole argument around what was written in 1856 and these romantic stories that were created. But with our oral histories, it far, you know, it predates that kōrero. So it's kind of, when I have that kōrero with people, that gets pretty intense. And the money one's the one, because I don't have an idea of how much that would cost to do something like that. But yeah. Kia ora.
Ka pai.
Sure. Go for it.
Tēnā koe hoi.
Ka te pai.
He pātai.
Oh, ka pai.
Kia ora koe.
Thought it was out.
As an artist, I'm interested because artists are here to agitate, to provoke thinking, whakaaro, and that in time can instigate or initiate change. So I acknowledge what you're attempting to do.
Thank you.
And in terms of hori, my whakaaro turned to younger days, it was used in a derogatory sense for we as Māori. My koro's name is Hori Ingarangi Kingi Hipango, which was reflective. His old people naming him was about relationships. So coming back to relationships, and this is something that I'm interested in because we haven't yet received, that I'm aware of, and I stand to be corrected, any submissions in relation to our tupuna, our old people who fought under the price of citizenship. The flag, the name New Zealand, First, Second World Wars and other conflict zones. Of those 70,000 signatories to the petition, are you aware of the whakaaro of any of our veterans, our karawa, our koroheke, our kuia, around that relationship? Because our whakapapa, for many of us as Māori, is also whakapapa with our military service that's been given. We've had the debate and the referendum about the flag. We're now into a proposed name change. Has there been any sharing with you on your journey around what the whakaaro is of those of our old people who fought under the mantle.
Kyle,
of the
no
name.
one that I know that has fought in any of that. So I've not talked to anyone about that. But there is that kōrero around, you know, what happens to the Anzacs and all of this. And it's like, the mana is still there, like for these people. That it doesn't just cancel that out, I don't think, at all. But that, yeah, I have heard that kōrero around, what about the army people that have served their lives and done this or under the, it's like, my whakaaro is just like, it's just still the same. We you know, we celebrate them. But this doesn't change the fact from this kupu and this ingoa. It doesn't take away from that anything at all.
Kia ora, hoipa.
Can I just note that you've made our whānau famous? We're the Hori whānau from Rotorua. My great-grandfather was Monita Hori. We are the Horis, and we've lived and breathed that name all of our life. So I sympathise with you. When people talk about the Horis from Rotorua, they're talking about us. So I mihi to you for bringing mana to our name through your creative process. That's all we've got time for. Thank you for your contribution today.
Nā koe.